welcome to BronxTalk. Lehman College, named after Herbert H. Lehman, New York's 45th governor, was founded in 1968. Lehman is the Bronx's only four-year public college. The campus on Bedford Park Boulevard was originally Hunter College, and in fact, some people don't know this, the first United Nations was on the Lehman campus in the building now known as the old gym building. Lehman has more than 81,000 alumni, and today we're recording this edition of BronxTalk on Thursday, September 26th. The college welcomed back to the campus a reunion of its pioneer classes. As you might know, BronxNet has been part of the Lehman community since the Bronx Cable Network was founded in 1993. So, especially considering that I am an alum of Lehman's class of 1976, a pioneer class, we thought it would be fun and interesting to meet some of the graduates of Lehman's past and bring us all up to date on Lehman College of the President. So let's welcome everybody. Please join me in welcoming from the class of 1976, my classmate, Joey Marcus. Nice to see you in person, other than on Facebook and everywhere else where we do it. Terry Raskyn from the class of 1973. Nice to see you. From the class of 1978, it's Stephen Hanks. Nice to see you. And the current Vice President of Student Affairs at Lehman College is Dr. Jermaine Wright. Sir, nice to have you with us.
Great, thank you.
You must really enjoy being with all us old-timers.
Yes, of course.
You've heard some good stories. So we're going to start with you, yes. Dr. Wright. Talk to me about why it was important to have this day and bring all of us back to the college, and what does it mean to the college to have, it was well attended, enthusiastic. Just talk a little bit about what this meant.
So Lehman is a beacon of economic and social mobility. As indicated, Lehman became an independent institution within the CUNY system in 1968. So to have that pioneer class stemming from 1968 all the way up until 78, it has been historic and monumental. You all have laid the foundation of the first classes that have set the generational steps of what our Lehman College community looks like and the great things that they have done.
Among the things that I was very impressed with we had a presentation and a luncheon and all that, is when they asked how many people were the first people to graduate from their family. And we didn't do a count, but a large majority of them, that's consistent to this day.
Yes, it is. And it was an interesting fact that I took note of as well. Marty asked three particular questions that I took note of, one of which was, how many are first generation college students? And the hands went up. I didn't do a count either, but I was able to see from the crowd.
It was noticeable in
yes.
the room.
Yes. The other was, how many of the individuals came from low socioeconomic statuses? How many would be consider themselves poor? And the hands went up. And the last one is, as a result of attending Lehman, how many
I love this one. Also because we have them sitting around
us. Have had great careers. So that has held true here at Lehman. Large number of our students are first generation college students.
I just want to finish that sentence. Almost everybody in the room said they had healthy careers.
Yes.
What is it about Lehman College today that still helps students achieve to levels that some of my colleagues here have done?
It is that sense of belonging and community that we create here for our students and our top-notch faculty and staff who believe in our students and say that access and excellence are the mantras, that we get them in, we get them out, and we help them to climb up the social mobility ladder through a quality education.
One of the things that we have talked about, because when we went to college in the 70s, Lehman College was free, and I have told this story a number of times, when they instituted a $75 student activities fee, we protested. My goodness, you can't charge us $75. But let's talk about the cost. Let's talk about how you deal with it and the fact that this still is one of the most affordable colleges anywhere.
Yes, you still get a quality education at a modest cost, right? It's not free and it's not that $75, but our students,
sorry,
through
as much as we wish it could be. That's right.
But our students get a quality education, and many of our students receive grants, scholarship, and federal financial aid to help them with their educational costs. So it is still an affordable, and it's a good quality education, a good bang for their buck.
As we finished the luncheon, one of the things that was said which really made me, and I'm sure my friends and colleagues, sit back for a moment. They said in the food pantry, 400 meals a week are served to Lehman students. And that's a sad thing, because we certainly wish it wasn't like that when we went to school. But it says immense progress for Lehman College to provide that service because of the recognition. If we don't do it, they ain't coming to school.
Correct. It's literally Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Their basic needs have to be met. So our food pantry, which runs out of our basic needs center, provides over 400 bags, produce, and meals to our students on a weekly basis.
So therefore, listen, I'm doing the sale. It's my alma mater. I can do it. Lehman College is the place for opportunity. I got some other numbers. Number 1, top online college in New York. Number 2, online nursing. And of course, we do have that incredible new nursing building. But this one was the one that blows you away. Top 10 most affordable colleges in New York, in the United States of America. That is incredibly impressive. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
And also, and you mentioned this, 4th in the nation in the highest mobility rate. Okay, 81,000 alumni, 13,000 students. Hang out, you're going to hear some great things about people who've done great things. My buddy Joey Marcus, we went to college together.
Jerry.
Now let's see, I've got here we go. Audio mixer in the late 70s, working at radio stations, WHLI, WWDJ, WINS, and 1978 ABC television. You were an audio mixer. That was really how you ultimately made your career. Channel 13, you mixed the Dick Cavett Show and the McNeil Lehrer Report. Hired by CBS in 1981. 38 years you worked at CBS. Now, folks, listen to this. So he mixed talk shows, presidential inaugurations. There's an incredible photo of Joey doing his thing. Political conventions, Super Bowl coverage. When you heard audio, it was Joey mixing the faders there. Olympic Games, many other type of shows. You were audio supervisor and mixer for the CBS Morning News shows, CBS Morning News, CBS Morning Program, The Early Show, et cetera, et cetera.
Every version.
Every election, news emergency. Incredible, right?
Incredible.
That's only one. Let's see. You also did audio for performances by, Beyonce, Garth Brooks, Phil Collins, Ringo Starr, James Taylor, et cetera, et cetera. What did Lehman College do to get you so that you were ultimately able to do those things?
I think I had a love of music and the technical side of it also. And the radio station was like a natural place to go for that. And
WHLC.
Yeah, WHLC.
Herbert Lehman College, in case you couldn't figure it.
We started out in the old student hall in the basement. We had to get out of there because they were renovating the building. We had to rebuild the entire station in a temporary,
in a trailer,
40-foot long trailer. We had no money.
Excuse me, just so people would know, it was outside Gillette Hall.
Yes.
Right? Over there.
In the backside. And we bought all the equipment with our budget. We wired it. We designed it. We operated it. We were most of the time totally autonomous.
I appreciate that you said we, but really because you were the general manager for 3 years.
I was. It was
the
a year.
respect I had to give, Joe.
And you were the program director. With
I think there's a couple of pictures of us in the old days. We could show those photos. See there you can see I was the program director, and let's see, and there I am when I was much younger, wearing my WHLC T-shirt, and I want to bring up something about that in a second. And then there I am, of course, running the board, the old style boards, the kind of board that Joe learned how to work.
We had to learn everything we learned on that.
The thing that said on my T-shirt was 5:90 a.m. It says it on your button.
Right.
So we were actually on the radio dial.
Yes.
And we played music into the cafeterias.
Right. We had speakers in the cafeteria, but we were also on the AM band. It was a carrier current. It didn't go very far, but
you could hear it around the reservoir. Right. I remember that.
We operated. It didn't matter that we didn't go very far. We were doing it as an exercise in doing radio, learning the whole craft, every part of it. We did newscasts, our own newscasts. We had a UPI machine. We would write our own newscast, do it every half hour. We did shows. We did productions of different things, an artist, and we would do a whole musical production on
Now
stuff
you
like
were what major were you? You mass
communication.
And let's just talk about that. I mean, I remember and it's just silly to even mention. Nobody knows what it is. We used 3/4-inch tape. Is that what we did?
A quarter-inch.
Quarter-inch
Right.
tape. Oh, because audio. I'm thinking of video. Right. So we used audio tape, 1/4-inch audio tape, and we edited with razor blades and
Yes.
all that. I'm still trying to make that transition from there to you being an audio engineer.
Well,
To being a network audio, for the biggest TV shows in America.
When we had to take a course, as part of the mass comm curriculum, there was an audio engineering course, which was part of it was learning how to deal with microphones, but one of the parts was editing tape, and they would give us a little 3-inch reel of tape, and you had to edit it with a razor blade on a splicing block. The stuff I learned there and at the station prepared me when I went to work at WINS. I knew how to edit tape already. The thing I learned at WINS is how to edit tape super quickly because they would run in with stories. Reporters, cut this out, and assemble it here, and then you'd give it to the guy and he'd run into the studio and be on the air. So I really learned it well there.
Dr. Wright, this is the value of having these kinds of experiences. WHLC is still there in a different format. I mean, things have changed, and now there's a student life building that has all that. We were in a student life building that became the music building, and then, of course, a trailer, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. The idea of experiential learning, which still carries through now, that hands-on, on-the-ground learning that students are taking into internships and into the world of work.
Okay.
Well, editing, even though everything now is digital editing, the art of editing, to know how to do it, taking out breaths, doing things that we all had to do. It was a lot more complicated.
He said, and that would be the first thing that edit
that's
out.
True. So it's still, it's gotten easier, but it's still the same
We're
thing.
going to get back to you and find out some more stuff. Let's bring in from the class of 1973, my friend Terry Raskyn. Now let's see. I'm going to go earlier, and then we'll get to the current. Let's see, you specialized in legal journalism, not only at ABC's Good Morning America, but as a commentator for broadcast outlets, including little stations like CNN and Fox News and CNBC, the BBC, and then Court TV. You were a news reporter for both WCBS News Radio and NBC. And this I love, ladies and gentlemen, and we have a picture of it. She was an airborne helicopter traffic reporter for WCBS and later for WNBC. A managing editor for WCBS, produced coverage of breaking news and award-winning special events that were broadcast worldwide. A director of public information. Now we're moving to the next part of your career for the Office of the Bronx County District Attorney. Going back to where we're at now, you're an attorney now.
Yes.
So you were. So before we get to Lehman, so how did we go from doing all that wonderful broadcast work, and certainly I'm a fan of broadcasting, to becoming an attorney?
Well, I had decided when I was one of the editors with my Lehman colleague, Vito Macchiolo, who was one of the editors on the Meridian. We worked together. We edited the Co-op City Times, which was one of the two
I didn't
newspapers
know
in
that.
Co-op City.
I lived there,
I
so I read
neglected
it.
to mention that.
You read Terry's work.
And it was during the rent strike. And so I was talking to lawyers all the time.
Wow.
There was a contempt of court trial involving the strike leaders that was held in Bronx Supreme, and a case that even went to the U.S. Supreme Court. So I'm talking to lawyers day in and day out. And I decided, gee, I like this. I want to specialize in legal coverage. So I decided to go to law school.
And that's where you did legal broadcasting for a while.
For a while, yes. What I did do, however, is by that time I was working at Good Morning America. while I was going to law school.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because it's like these little shows. You know?
Right.
Little shows.
I was working at Good Morning
I was
America.
lucky.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Yeah, go
actually,
ahead.
let's go step back just a second. It was because of WHLC, and actually, I started. It was WHCB.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
That's
you
right.
mentioned that.
And
And we should say that was
Yes.
Hunter when
Hunter College
Lehman was
Broadcasting.
Hunter College. And so Hunter College we weren't sure it was Hunter College
Right.
Bronx or Hunter College Broadcasting.
I think it was broadcasting. But in any case, those call letters, we had our radio station up on the 3rd floor of Student Hall.
which is now the music building, folks.
Right.
For the people who know.
For a number of years. I was back here a few years ago before they did the renovation of the steps. And they have taken care of the chunk of concrete that was knocked out when we got an air conditioner, and our techs were putting it in the window and dropped it. But no one was hit, thank God.
Yeah, I got a little inside baseball here. Terry told me I wanted to see if the concrete had ever been repaired. If there was still a chip in that, and it was gone, right?
It was gone, yes.
Okay,
it's
fair
new
enough.
concrete. There's no flaws there anymore, no trip hazard. I now think as a lawyer, no trip hazard. And, we rebuilt, we were, 3rd floor was being eliminated for our use and for Meridian. And we had to rebuild, and we were given a space downstairs just adjacent to the tunnels. And I think you can still see the studio there through the double pane glass wall.
Wow.
And that we reopened. It was Charlie Allenson and I did the planning and the execution. And our techs, including Alan Deneroff, did the actual wiring and everything else. And we reopened as WHLC.
There you go. So you
Yeah.
were right there,
Right.
obviously before
But while I
Joey
was
and
at
I were there.
HLC, one of my colleagues, Gene Iannuzzi, and I did a
Oh, I remember
documentary.
Gene. Wow.
Yeah, a
There's a
radio
name.
documentary about the fire department. And when I was starting to look for a job while I was in my senior year at Lehman, I had sent a resume, and it had that in the resume, the information about the documentary. And the then news director of WRVR Radio was interested in me.
I remember hearing you on WRVR.
He
I
aired
have to-
that.
That
and
was
brought
a
us
jazz
on.
station.
Jazz and Public
in New York
Affairs.
City. Right.
So when something opened up there a few weeks later, just 6 weeks after graduation, I got a job there.
So-
and in the PR department. Now, it was when I was there, it was wall-to-wall Watergate during the day.
Wow.
The anchors were Robert Siegel, Neil Conan, and it was Jazz and Public Affairs nights, weekends.
What is very interesting to me, and I can speak to this for myself, which maybe I'll have time for today or not, is you were an English major.
Yes.
And I know how I would answer this question. How did being an English major fuel what you ultimately did? I'm guessing it gave you that sense of social consciousness of being able to understand the world so that you ultimately said, hey, maybe I'll be a little more serious than
No, not
no,
at all.
I'm wrong. Gary's
No,
wrong.
no,
I've-
I'm
No, this
sorry.
is the first
It was
time I've
not.
been wrong all year.
Yeah, well, there you go. I'm sorry. I always, go against the norms. I majored in English only because I couldn't figure out what else
to do?
major in. I was taking advanced math classes, with the equations across 3 boards. Didn't want to become a mathematician or teach, but I knew I wanted to go into broadcasting. And I only took one of the broadcast classes because I'd already been exposed to it. I, knew how to edit tape already. So that was not going to do it for me. Now I advise people who want to get into news, take history, major in history. I can teach you how to edit tape. I can teach you how to do this
I'm
and
asking
that.
Dr. Wright to make a note about that.
Yes.
I am.
But I
And then
cannot
a quick
teach you
plug for our
about
liberal
liberal.
arts degrees as well, as a political science major and a
Right.
sociology major, now a VP, and from an English major to an attorney. So
There you go. One thing I do want to establish also, you are the co-chair of the Women's Bar Association of the state of New York. Do you love this work?
I love it.
You love
I
this
love
work.
this work.
You love that work, and
I
you
love this work.
See,
I had to. What happened
successful career.
is I had, a huge news career that when I had my own news agency was frankly starting to peter out, and I had to reinvent myself. And thanks to the Women's Bar Association of the state, which is the 2nd largest bar association in New York, I was introduced to guardianship law, and I'm not practicing full time, but I do that. Think Britney Spears. That's what guardianship law is.
Oh, fascinating.
And I also do mediation and some other things. but I love the law, and I'm now the co-chair of the nominations committee for the state bar, and active with my local Mid-Hudson
I feel like
chapter.
we want to applaud for all the great. No, but really, this is part of, to me, what I mean. I will tell you, being an English major for me, even though I was at the radio station, I was going to have a career in broadcasting. Studying literature gave me a point of view of the world, so I could look at something happening and then see it in a larger context because I've studied all that literature. I never regretted being an English major.
But I haven't dropped it, but in that I've been on the board of trustees for my local library for over a decade. And so that involves reading in English and all of the above.
Thank you very much, Terry Raskyn. We're going to get back to them. Ladies and gentlemen, the class of 1978 is Stephen Hanks. Nice to see you again, Steve.
Pleasure to be here.
Steve, you were now let me just go through it. He lives in Sedona, Arizona, which is an interesting thing. But let's see. Head varsity baseball coach, independent writing and editing, advertising sales executive. That's all the work out there. But here we go. Let's see. Launched his own company, baseball and softball coach at various New York City schools, advertising sales director at Habitat Magazine, editorial director at PM 360 Magazine, advertising sales executive from the newspaper group News Corporation, publisher and editorial director of Rugby Magazine, co-founder, I love this, of New York Sports and Phenom Publishing, editor-in-chief of Goal Magazine, and this I love because I read this magazine every single month, was associate editor of Sport Magazine, which was, other than Sports Illustrated, was a wonderful magazine.
And was a job that I got because of Lehman's English department internship program, where while I was in my senior year, I wanted to do an internship. As a matter of fact, somebody who's in our studio audience, Andrea Stone, had that internship the year before I did, and I told the faculty advisor then that I desperately wanted to work on Sport Magazine because that was what I grew up reading, and it was my dream to work there. And he made a phone call to one of the editors. Actually, it was a woman editor, and this was 1977.
So that's pretty rare, especially in a sports publication.
Right. She was the #2 editor on a national sports magazine. And she said, sure, we could use a guy to come over here and clip newspapers. And then 2 years later, I was editor-in-chief of the National Hockey League magazine. So that was started because of Lehman had an internship program.
The thing that I was saving for, now let's see, you were co-captain of the baseball team here, edited the 1978 senior yearbook, you were president of the student government at one point, but to me, the thing that is in your heart and soul is Meridian, is the newspaper Meridian. And I know I'll ask you in a moment about the current Meridian. I saw you were talking with the current editor. What was Meridian then, and what did it do for you, or is it just plainly obvious?
Well, it's not that obvious. I mean, when my goal as growing up was to be a sports writer. To write for magazines, like
and so
sport.
It really was sport because it follows.
That was my whole life. Early in my life, sports was my whole life. So when I joined Meridian as a freshman, I was really full of myself. Not like now, but
you're a college student. You could be as full of yourself as you want.
But I joined the paper as a freshman, and the editor-in-chief of the editor of the sports section wanted me to cover a team. And I said, I'm not really interested in covering a team. I want to write columns. So he let me write columns. But then and also that semester, then the spring semester I was playing baseball. So I couldn't get really involved in the paper itself. But the next year I was voted as a co-sports editor. And that experience just developed my passion for actually putting a publication together. And it was at that time.
So that's why all of these things that I just listed, you just couldn't stop. This is what you do.
No, I mean, it's funny that you read a lot of advertising sales jobs that I had, but a lot of those were like in between editing magazines.
I was reading off his resume.
That's okay.
So.
No, that's okay, because in some of the cases, I was also the publisher and a publisher of a publication. Even if you're the editorial director, when you're the publisher, you oversee advertising sales because it's the business side. So when I was sports editor and Steve Zuckerman, who's also in the studio audience, it was my mentor because he was the editor-in-chief before me. And we just became really good friends, and I just fell in love with the process.
And so what was it at Lehman College? I'm going to make an assertion. I have it in my head. What was it at Lehman College that gave you the opportunity? Sounds to me like it's the community of people you work with. You talked about a couple of the people who are in the room here and the opportunities. You talked about somebody who paved the way for you to get to Sport Magazine.
And I actually want to pick up on something that Dr. Wright said before about the socioeconomic level of the students that we talked about at the event. It's my assertion, and I could be really wrong about this, that the quality of the people and the students that came to Lehman in the 70s who were working, maybe not even middle-class families, but were bright enough that if they could have afforded it, they could have gone to Ivy Leagues.
And if you went to an Ivy League, you may not have done all this stuff.
I'm kind of glad that I didn't. I mean, in a way. I mean, so what I'm basically saying is, like Terry, like everybody, you know, who was at that room today, a lot of those people could have gone to like major schools, but they were working class. And so Lehman afforded us.
I have great passion for this. Bronx people.
Yeah,
Bronx
and
people.
Lehman afforded us an opportunity to get a college education for very little money. And that's one of the reasons why so many people from that era became successful.
Political science. You're a political science major.
Yeah. I intend,
Not instead of a journalism major or an English major or something else. Or
my education was working on a newspaper here. I intended to be an English major. I wasn't crazy about the English
Dr. Wright
classes.
said experiential learning.
Absolutely.
So I want to ask you about your impression of what you heard. I'm guessing if current students or prospective students were to hear this, they'd say, wow, what a great culture, what a great place to be, right? That's how you, I'm sure you're really joyful hearing these stories.
I'm delighted hearing the stories, and what it holds true and what I'm hearing is that the extracurricular activities, the things that you're participating outside of the classroom, in addition to what you're learning in the classroom, has fueled your desire of where you are now, which resonates for me and particularly our students currently, because research indicates that students that are part of a club and an organization, in addition to their studies, tend to excel and exceed and graduate.
This week you had the club fair because for the new semester. How many clubs, or I don't know if you have that number off the top of your head.
67.
So, he does. There are 67 clubs. So really, and again, this is for prospective students or parents. And by the way, one of the numbers I had here was 12% of 35 and older, 12% of the current population. But there's opportunities here for me and for the others. They used what they learned in the classroom. For me, it was background to be able to do what I ultimately did.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I have no regrets. The last thing. Why did you go to Sedona? If nobody's been there, it's one of the most beautiful places in America. The mountains are gorgeous. I've been there. It's fantastic. Why would you go?
So really quick, I bought a house there in 2017 just to be there in the New York winters because I wanted to get out of there. And then for a number of reasons, my wife and I didn't move there. But then during the pandemic, when New York just came to a screeching halt, we just said, hey, we have a house in Sedona. Why don't we go live there? But now we're going to move back early next year.
Yeah, but well, that's nice.
Yeah.
But what is interesting to me is that when you went out there, let's see, here he was. He was a radio show host. He was a baseball coach. He did independent writing and editing. And, you just couldn't stop.
No, I don't believe
It's like him, like both of them. They couldn't stop. Like me, too. I'm still here.
Retirement's not a word in my vocabulary. So, I'm actually doing 2 radio shows now in Sedona.
Really?
One lifestyle show and one political show.
If current students or prospective students saw this, they'd be totally inspired. That's
would be.
my guess.
I hope so.
Yes. They'd be so inspired by hearing the similar stories of hardworking, middle-class families who want an access to education that have the potential to do well, right? So Lehman fuels that drive, that inspiration, and really cultivates that, and then puts you out there in the world to do great things.
I used the word earlier, and it's the culture that's here. And even though students are working, that's currently much more so maybe than we had to when we were students, even though poverty is obviously rampant in the Bronx, unfortunately, even though many people are first generation and many people don't even speak the language, they can come here and find community.
Yes.
Right?
Gary, can I add one more quick thing?
Oh, no, we don't do any of that. Go ahead, what do you got?
The thing that's great about Lehman is it's a campus. I mean, we're in
Yes.
New York City. I mean,
Give him a hug.
I mean, seriously, when we were here, we lived on campus.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived in
Yeah.
Co-op City on the other side of the Bronx when I was going to Lehman, so I didn't want to go home.
My friend Joey Marcus, you guys, I should say you, but we created a whole culture at WHLC. People
Right.
were there all day and all
Of
night.
course.
Always.
My last term, I had 2 days off. I was at school those 2 days anyway.
Didn't matter.
Didn't matter. I was here.
We
for the
would,
duration.
believe me, I know we'd hang out at that radio station.
It's our fraternity.
Part of it was we were
That's
getting records. The record companies would send us records. And we were getting, and I have now a wall of records. All right, so now I want to go around the room. Biggest memory, craziest thing that individual moment that mattered, that changed your life. I don't know, give us a memory, something that people would appreciate.
The moving was crazy.
The moving from the former student
Student
hall,
hall
which is
to
now
the
the music
trailer.
building, to a trailer. I think we had to get rid of a lot of those record albums, right?
No, we took
We moved them,
everything
I don't remember them.
carton by carton, and we didn't have enough money to buy a table, so we found a door in the basement and made a table. That's the type of stuff we had to do.
Wow.
But it was such a learning experience.
And the reason that we were able to do that is because of everybody worked together. Everybody was committed
Everybody
to it.
did.
And you saw that in some of the photos we showed. All right, Terry Raskyn.
Well, this was, remember, when I was there, it was during Vietnam. I remember being up on the third floor. Whoever was anchor that day, we were reading off the draft numbers. And a student burst into the station and kind of took control of the microphone and, started protesting. Yeah, I don't even remember what it was. He was part emotionally disturbed, but part politically upset as well. And we just let him go and then very gently ushered him out of the studio.
You remember that?
I remember that. I remember having
Well-
to, when we were downstairs with one of my co-workers at WHLC, we had another intruder and the two of us literally frog marched her out of there.
I'm sorry for laughing. It's
Something we couldn't do today, but we each took an arm and lifted her and out.
There you go. One thing I want to mention about Meridian, I should have brought it because I had forgotten about it. There was an edition about the emergence of pornography at the time that was done, and I know this would drive the vice president of student affairs crazy. There was full frontal nudity in the centerfold of the Meridian.
Yeah, but do you remember the cover? The cover
was
a connect the dots.
I have it at home. I should have brought it in. The cover was I'll tell you, we could probably edit in the picture there. The cover was a connect the dots. And when you connected the dots, it was two people
doing their thing.
So times were different.
Yes.
That wouldn't survive
That
today.
would not survive
Well, it was
now.
during our time we had the streakers go across the
That's right. We had
our
that came
streakers.
up in dialogue today. That there were
Yeah.
streakers that took off all their clothes and ran across the campus. That also wouldn't apply.
Yeah.
You want to
Not
say
at
try
all.
not to do that.
Not at all. Not at all.
So, but what about big memories? And big moments?
Obviously it's tough because with baseball, student government, and Meridian, it's like, what do you pick? So I'll focus on Meridian. And memories can be weird that stick with you, but I'll never forget, and I still talk about this, One night, we used to print the Meridian on Tuesday nights really late in Brooklyn. After we had it printed in Manhattan.
And you would go to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Well, because the digital technology of sending the
Right.
Well,
it
this
didn't
was-
exist, really.
didn't really work.
I'm going to interrupt him
Yeah.
for a second.
Yeah.
What the Meridian was in those days was hot type, hot
Yes.
lead.
Right.
Yeah,
It was-
it
you
was a
know, yeah.
newspaper.
It was
Right, where
real,
the
real stuff.
typesetters, all the
Yeah.
lines were backwards because they had to go through a machine.
Wow.
Anyway, I'll never forget this one night when we went to Brooklyn to have the paper printed, and that was the first time I heard Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody on the radio.
And he still remember. He can still sing it.
I still,
remember
anytime
it
I
to
hear
this
that song, I think about being in Brooklyn printing Meridian.
day. There you go.
That's how many people have that memory.
Which
You,
one
that's
of
it.
my class colleagues is going to ask me about my favorite memory?
What's your favorite memory, Gary?
Joey would know, and I thought of a number of different things, but I cannot deny that meeting my wife here on the campus
okay.
in
Yes.
the trailer. I was teaching a training session. I'm going to tell a personal story. I was teaching a training session for other students who wanted to be DJs. And I was doing it, and she had a class canceled, or a professor who didn't show for a meeting. And she said, I want to go to the radio station. And then by the end of the class, I was only talking to her. And then, of course, the big college student had a car, and I said, I'll drive you home. And she lived 2 blocks from me. And it was too easy. And now, more than 40 years of marriage later, all started at Lehman College. Give us some more stuff about the current. Talk about programs. Oh, political science, right? We mentioned
Right.
that,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
English, mass communications. I was an English major. Talk about programs, new programs, things going on at Lehman. We want to let people know that, listen, we're all alums. We love the place. We want to sell it. We want people to come here and appreciate this. The new president is
he's wonderful.
He's wonderful. He's down to earth. Remembered me by my first name, which I really appreciated. So go ahead.
So we have, as I indicated before, the Basic Needs Center, which is where our food pantry is housed. We have emergency grants for students who are struggling, which has book vouchers, and it also provides them the ability to pay for rental arrears and a Con Ed bill or phone bill. So we're really trying to provide those wraparound services.
Before you go on, I just love that because the pressures on young people who have to work, who may have children, young people with children, and they have big responsibilities. And the mission of this college is to get them through, and you're ready to do everything that you
that we can. So we're literally alleviating all of the impediments to academic success, all of those environmental circumstances and issues so that they can concentrate and focus in the classroom and they can graduate.
I was on the food line when we were having lunch with a current student, and I was talking to her, and I asked her, because I was trying to get some material for this program, I asked her, because she's now going to law school as well, I asked her, what is it that got you through Lehman? Because she was the first in her family to graduate, and she used the word mentorship. That I had mentors here who could help me, not necessarily only with how to read books and whatever,
Yeah.
but talk about programs, more programs.
So
the new nursing building.
the new nursing building, which is huge. So my mom, a little tidbit, was also a Lehman College graduate. She was an older student when she began here. We were both first generation college students, and she was a nursing BA and also a BSN and then also a master's in nursing. So I told her about the nursing building, and she said nothing like that existed when I was here, and I would love to come back because it's state-of-the-art building that looks like an ICU, that looks like a ward. Like, she is just blown away by the pictures that I showed her, and I'm trying to get her to get back on campus as well.
There you go. We as you know, we were the first cameras inside there. And I just found out that if you go to the nursing page, you can see the show. So if you want to see what it looks like in there that we had done. Somebody else had told me online, they said, I was a psychology major. Talk about psychology.
So psychology is one of our top majors here at
That's why I brought it up.
as well as nursing, business administration, and also health services administration and sociology. Those are our top 5 undergraduate majors. We have over 60 plus programs, graduate education as well, and several doctoral programs as well, which are fairly new here to Lehman, our doctorate in nurse practitioner, and then also our EDD program here also.
I wanted to just mention, because it's something that, of course, when we were in school, we didn't have, but it's the #1 top online college in New York. That also benefits students who maybe have to take a hybrid or whatever. Talk a little bit about online and how that works.
So even prior
Because
to
some people who can't get here
Correct, yes.
may say, well, I could do it online. How does it
Correct. So a large number of our students take evening and weekend classes, right? So because they're working during the day and they're unable to come during the day. So the online courses provide that opportunity. The flexibility of asynchronous, synchronous, hybrid allows them to have the flexibility to work, take care of the responsibilities they need to take care of, and still get a quality education. So COVID, despite the things that happened during COVID, has given us the opportunity to afford, give students the opportunity to have more online courses and a more diverse offering.
And you register here. You probably can register online.
You can register online. We make it so simple. We want you to come in, get this quality education at Lehman from wherever you sit, from wherever you are, and enroll and sign up.
Top 10 most affordable college in the United States of America.
That's great.
30 seconds. Anything. What do you got? Want to say something? Thank a professor. You have a favorite professor?
Persky, Joel Persky.
Joel Persky. I remember. I didn't take
Yes.
his class, but I did know him. All right. Favorite professor?
Yeah, he was our advisor for the radio station.
He was. Yeah. That's how I got to
Yeah.
Hemick Dragic. She taught English. I took a couple classes from her. And then fast forward, we reconnected. She was working at ABC News. And
Wow.
she became.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And
I never thought I was going to be called a pioneer.
But today you
But
are.
today
I am a pioneer.
And I just want to say, this has been a great day, and the college has been awesome in welcoming us, and everybody's been fabulous. The new president's a great guy. This gentleman is terrific. You're doing a great show.
All right. Well, I will tell you one thing that happened to me. I was a decent student, not an A student, maybe a B student. And I was in a Shakespeare class, and Eileen Allman was a wonderful Shakespeare professor. And I took a test and I looked at it and I just drew a total blank. I couldn't remember anything. So I walked in and handed the paper. Everybody looked at me where he finished in 2 minutes. And she looked at me funny, and I said, I don't know anything. What am I going to do? She said, go home, read up on everything in here. You know it's on the test. Come back and take a look, and tomorrow you can take the test again. And that showed me that we're all trying to get through this, and she treated me like a human being, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joe Marcus. Congratulations on everything. Terry Raskyn, thank you. Stephen Hanks, thank you.
Thank you.
Doc,
Pleasure.
Beautiful, beautiful. Lehman College. The
You
best
make us
place.
proud.
All right.
You will make us proud.
Listen, next week we're going to do more education. We're going to visit with some of the borough's best charter schools. We thank our producer, Mariucci Moran. Director is Will Guzman. Our editor is Yessi Diaz. We have a cast of thousands who work with us here in the studio. And of course to you too, people of the Bronx. So if the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, we'll be back next week.